April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein, a name synonymous with genius, passed away at Princeton University Hospital. His mind, even in its final hours, wrestled with the universe's deepest secrets. Lying near his bed were his final 12 pages, densely scribbled with equations, a chaotic tapestry of crossouts and corrections, evidence of a mind consumed, grappling with an idea until his very last moments of consciousness. For decades, the scientific establishment largely dismissed these pages, relegating them to the realm of frantic scribbles, the product of a brilliant mind, perhaps past its prime. But what if they were wrong? What if those 12 pages contained something so dangerous, so reality-shattering, that Einstein chose to take it to his grave, rather than risk its publication? What if he deemed the potential consequences of revealing this truth too destabilizing? Because this wasn't the first time Einstein concealed something from the world. Back in 1927, Einstein penned a secret paper, a document that had the potential to redefine physics as we knew it. He was poised to present it to the Academy of Sciences, but then, just days before its scheduled release, he abruptly withdrew it. Completely. The paper vanished, becoming a ghost in the annals of scientific history. For decades, its very existence remained unknown, a secret buried in the depths of Einstein's intellectual vault. Now, if you think you truly understand Einstein's views on quantum mechanics, if you believe what you learned in school, what those textbooks so confidently proclaim, prepare yourself, because you're about to discover that you've only been shown the version they wanted you to see. The real story is far more unsettling. You see, Einstein's disagreement with quantum mechanics wasn't merely a matter of differing opinions. He didn't simply believe it was incomplete. He was convinced, he possessed proof, of something that fundamentally contradicted everything modern physics holds dear, and upon grasping the full implications of his discovery, he chose silence over a scientific revolution. The revelations I'm about to share have been meticulously pieced together, from declassified documents, private letters that fetched millions at auction, and manuscripts unearthed from archives as recently as 2019. This is material that most physicists have never encountered, that most science channels simply won't touch. But you deserve to know what Einstein really discovered. In May of 1927, Einstein arrived at a meeting of the Academy of Sciences, armed with a paper titled "On the Completeness of Schrödinger's Wave Mechanics." The title itself offers a glimpse into his intent, while the rest of the physics world was embracing uncertainty and probability. Einstein remained steadfast in his search for determinism, for a hidden order, lurking beneath the apparent quantum chaos. His paper proposed what scientists now refer to as a hidden variable theory. The premise was both simple and revolutionary. What if the randomness inherent in quantum mechanics wasn't true randomness at all? What if hidden variables existed, unseen forces or properties, that dictated the precise behavior of particles? What if the universe wasn't playing dice, but rather following a script that remained unreadable to us? Einstein believed he had found mathematical evidence that such hidden variables actually existed, but then something happened. According to historical records, now corroborated by scholars at Oxford and Princeton, Einstein retracted the paper before it could see the light of day. The officially stated reason was the discovery of a mathematical error. However, private correspondence paints a vastly different picture. In a letter, discovered decades later, Einstein confessed that his theory worked too well. It not only predicted determinism, but something far more profound, something he termed non-separability. Non-separability. Remember that term, because it holds the key to understanding everything. Einstein's discovery revealed that if hidden variables were real, if the universe truly operated on deterministic principles beneath the quantum facade, Then particles that had once interacted could never truly be separated. They would remain inextricably linked, regardless of the distance separating them. Any action performed on one would instantaneously influence the other, no matter how vast the gulf between them. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance. Many assume Einstein coined this phrase to ridicule quantum mechanics, picturing him as scoffing at an outlandish prediction. But here's the part they conveniently leave out. Einstein himself first encountered spooky action within his own theory, the very hidden variables he sought to restore order to the universe, predicted the very phenomenon he found so profoundly disturbing. He withdrew the paper because his quest to impose order on the universe had inadvertently unveiled something even more bizarre than the chaos he was trying to eliminate. If you're beginning to grasp the significance of this, if you're starting to understand how this revelation could reshape our understanding of reality, comment revelation right now, because what follows is even more unsettling. For 20 years following the withdrawal of that pivotal paper, Einstein continued his clandestine work. He never again published a hidden variable theory. He never publicly acknowledged how close he had come to proving what he most feared, but he never abandoned the pursuit. In 1935, and he published the now famous EPR paradox, alongside Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen. The paper was presented as an attack on quantum mechanics. It argued that if quantum theory was complete, it would necessitate particles influencing each other instantaneously, across any distance, a concept Einstein deemed utterly absurd. But here's what the textbooks neglect to mention. Einstein already knew this prediction was accurate. He had mathematically proven it back in 1927. The EPR paper wasn't truly an attack on quantum mechanics. It was Einstein's attempt to alert the physics community to his discovery, without explicitly revealing his own hidden variable research. He was essentially saying, look at the implications of quantum mechanics, hoping someone, anyone, would find a way out, a way to explain the connection, without having to accept it. No one did. In 1947, Einstein penned a letter to his friend Max Born, marking the first public appearance of the phrase spooky action at a distance. This letter, now a part of the Born-Einstein letters published in 1971, unveils Einstein's internal struggle as he grappled with the implications of his own work. He wrote that he found it difficult to truly believe in quantum mechanics because it required physics to abandon the notion that reality exists independently in space and time, free from spooky actions at a distance. But pay close attention to what he's really saying. He's not claiming that spooky action is impossible. He's admitting that he cannot accept it. This is a critical distinction. Einstein wasn't dismissing the evidence. He was refusing to embrace what that evidence implied, because Einstein possessed knowledge. That wouldn't be confirmed until 67 years after his death. In 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics was bestowed upon Alan Aspect, John Clauser, and Anton Zeilinger for experiments that definitively demonstrated the reality of quantum entanglement. Spooky action at a distance is real. Particles separated by vast distances can instantaneously influence one another. Einstein was correct about the phenomenon. He was just wrong about whether it should be accepted. Or was he? Because this is where our story takes its darkest turn, and this is information that most sources simply won't provide. Upon his death in 1955, Einstein left behind far more than just 12 pages of equations. He left behind decades of unpublished work, housed at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, a collection that now encompasses over 80,000 Einstein documents. On April 18, 1955, a titan of science, Albert Einstein, breathed his last at Princeton University Hospital. A quiet end to a life that had reshaped our understanding of the universe. But even in his final moments, his mind, a relentless engine of inquiry, was still at work. By his bedside lay the final 12 pages, covered in densely scribbled equations, a labyrinth of crossouts and corrections, the remnants of his final, unfinished quest. For decades, These pages were dismissed by many in the scientific community as the wanderings of a brilliant mind, adrift and perhaps losing its way. But what if they were profoundly wrong? What if those final 12 pages held something so earth-shattering, so dangerous, so reality-bending, that Einstein felt compelled to carry it to his grave rather than unleash it upon the world? What if the cost of revealing this truth was too high for even him to pay? This isn't the first time Albert Einstein kept something from the world. This isn't the first time such a brilliant mind chose science over all else, over popular opinion, over what was considered the norm. This is the story of a revelation that could rewrite the very foundations of physics. A secret Einstein guarded with his life, a secret that began decades before his death, with a paper that vanished without a trace. In 2019, a stunning discovery was announced. A missing page from a 1930 manuscript on unified field theory was found among newly acquired documents. The page had been considered lost for almost 90 years. Its contents had never been analyzed. What was on that page? Calculations attempting to unify gravity and electromagnetism in a way that incorporated what Einstein called the connectivity of space. In other words, Einstein was still trying to explain how separated parts of the universe could be connected. He was still working on the problem that had haunted him since 1927. Some researchers believe Einstein came closer to solving this puzzle than anyone has realized, that his unified field theory work was not the dead-end mainstream physics claims, that he found something in those equations that modern physics has yet to rediscover, and that the final 12 pages by his deathbed were his final attempt to leave a record. If Einstein really discovered something profound about the connected nature of reality, why did he never publish it? Why did he withdraw the 1927 paper? Why did he spend decades warning about spooky action at a distance while secretly knowing it was real? One theory, discussed in academic circles but rarely mentioned publicly, is that Einstein feared the implications. If particles can influence each other instantaneously across any distance, what does that say about free will, about causality, about the nature of time itself? If everything in the universe that has ever interacted remains eternally connected, what does that say about consciousness, about the relationship between observer and observed? Einstein was not just a physicist. He thought deeply about philosophy, religion, and the meaning of existence. He described himself as a deeply religious non-believer, fascinated by the cosmic order he saw in the equations. Perhaps what he discovered in 1927 challenged not just physics, but everything he believed about reality. Perhaps he withdrew that paper not because he found a mathematical error, but because he found something true, something too true, something that would force humanity to reconsider everything it thought it knew about the universe and our place in it. The mainstream story says Einstein was simply wrong about quantum mechanics, that he could not accept the new physics, that he spent his final decades chasing unified field theory while the rest of physics moved on. But the evidence suggests something different. Einstein was not running from quantum mechanics. He was running from something he had found within it, something he had proven in 1927 and could never disprove afterward, something that haunted him for the remaining 28 years of his life. And now we need to talk about what that something might actually mean for you. For all of us, consider what quantum entanglement really implies when taken to its logical conclusion. Every particle in your body was once part of a star. Every atom has interacted with countless other atoms over billions of years. If entanglement works the way experiments now prove it does, if particles that have once interacted remain connected forever, then you are entangled with the entire universe, not metaphorically, not spiritually, physically, mathematically, provably. This is what Einstein saw in 1927. This is what made him withdraw his paper. Not just that particles could be connected, but that everything is connected. That separation is an illusion. That what we experience as individual existence is a local phenomenon within a unified whole. Einstein spent his life searching for a unified field theory because he had already glimpsed the unified field. He had seen it in his hidden variable equations, and he spent the rest of his career trying to find a way to describe it that did not require accepting what it meant. He failed. Or did he? Those final 12 pages by his deathbed have never been fully published. The Einstein archives contain thousands of pages of unpublished calculations. The 2019 discovery proved that important documents are still being found. What else is waiting in those archives? Some physicists have speculated that Einstein made progress on unified field theory that he never revealed. That his later work, dismissed as a dead end by the physics establishment, actually contained insights that were too far ahead of their time to be understood. Remember, Einstein was also decades ahead with special relativity, general relativity, and the photoelectric effect. 3 revolutionary discoveries that redefined physics. Is it really so strange to think he might have made a 4th discovery that we are only now beginning to understand? In 2013, physicists Juan Maldacena and Leonard Susskind proposed something remarkable. They suggested that quantum entanglement and wormholes might be the same phenomenon. They called it ER equals EPR, combining Einstein's 2 most famous papers from 1935. The Einstein-Rosen bridge, better known as a wormhole, might be the physical manifestation of the EPR paradox. Entangled particles might literally be connected by microscopic tunnels through space-time. If this is true, then Einstein was not wrong about anything. He was simply so far ahead that it took 80 years for physics to catch up. The man who discovered that space and time are woven together, that mass curves the fabric of reality, that energy and matter are interchangeable expressions of the same thing. This man also discovered that all of reality is connected in ways we are only beginning to measure, and he chose to hide it. Why? Perhaps because he understood something about human nature. Perhaps because he had seen what happened when his equation E equals mc squared was turned into a weapon. Perhaps because he knew that the knowledge of universal connection, of the illusion of separation, could be just as dangerous in the wrong hands as nuclear energy. Or perhaps the reason is simpler. Perhaps Einstein simply could not accept a universe where his beloved locality, his cherished determinism, his faith in an objective reality existing independent of observation, had to be abandoned. Perhaps the secret Einstein took to his grave was not just a scientific discovery. Perhaps it was the moment when science forced him to choose between the truth of his equations and the worldview he had spent his life defending. He chose his worldview, and in doing so, he left the truth for us to rediscover. But here is where the story gets even stranger, because Einstein was not the only one who knew. In 1952, a young physicist named David Bohm published a paper that essentially recreated Einstein's hidden variable theory. Bohm did not know about the 1927 paper. He independently discovered the same mathematical structure, and his version also predicted non-separability. On April 18, 1955, a titan of science, Albert Einstein, breathed his last at Princeton University Hospital. A quiet end to a life that had reshaped our understanding of the universe. But even in his final moments, his mind, a relentless engine of inquiry, was still at work. By his bedside lay his final 12 pages, covered in densely scribbled equations, a labyrinth of crossouts and corrections, the remnants of his final unfinished quest. For decades, these pages were dismissed by many in the scientific community as the wanderings of a brilliant mind, adrift, and perhaps losing its way. But what if they were profoundly wrong? What if those final 12 pages held something so earth-shattering, so dangerous, so reality-bending, that Einstein felt compelled to carry it to his grave rather than unleash it upon the world? What if the cost of revealing this truth was too high for even him to pay? This isn't the first time Albert Einstein kept something from the world. This isn't the first time such a brilliant mind chose science over all else, over popular opinion, over what was considered the norm. This is the story of a revelation that could rewrite the very foundations of physics. A secret Einstein guarded with his life, a secret that began decades before his death, with a paper that vanished without a trace. It also showed that particles remained connected across any distance, David Bohm published his work. Einstein did not congratulate him. In fact, Einstein barely acknowledged Bohm's work publicly, but in private correspondence. Einstein admitted that Bohm had essentially rediscovered what he himself had found 25 years earlier. Why did Einstein not support Bohm? Why did he not say, "Yes, I found the same thing in 1927, and here is why I withdrew it"? Some historians believe Einstein was protecting Bohm. In 1952, America was in the grip of McCarthyism. Bohm was already under investigation for his political beliefs. He would eventually be forced to leave the United States. A public endorsement from Einstein, combined with revelations about suppressed physics research, that might have made things worse. Others believe Einstein was still not ready to admit what his own equations had shown him, even 25 years later. He could not accept a universe where locality was an illusion. The irony is painful. Einstein spent the 1950s publicly dismissing quantum mechanics, while privately knowing that his own hidden variable research had confirmed its strangest prediction. He criticized Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg for accepting probability, while hiding the fact that he had found something even more radical than probability. He had found connection, universal, instantaneous, unbreakable connection, and he could not tell anyone. This raises an uncomfortable question. How many other physicists have discovered things they chose not to publish? How many revolutionary findings are sitting in archives, waiting to be rediscovered? How much of what we think we know about physics is actually the version we were allowed to know? Einstein was the most famous scientist of the 20th century. If he felt compelled to suppress his own discoveries, what does that tell us about the scientific establishment? What does that tell us about the relationship between truth and power? I am not suggesting a grand conspiracy. I am suggesting something more subtle and more disturbing. The possibility that scientific progress is shaped not just by what we discover, but by what we are willing to accept, by what fits our worldview, by what we can handle. Einstein could not handle non-separability, so he hid it. What are we hiding from ourselves today? If you are still watching, you are different from 99% of people. Most viewers would have clicked away by now. Most people are not ready to question what they were taught about Einstein, about physics, about the nature of reality itself. But you stayed. You wanted to know. That makes you a seeker, someone who does not accept the official version just because it is official. Someone who understands that the most important discoveries are often the ones that get hidden. You just discovered what Einstein really found in 1927, and why he spent the rest of his life running from it. This information exists in academic papers, in archived letters, in manuscripts that cost millions at auction, but it is rarely assembled into a coherent narrative. It is rarely presented in a way that shows what it all means. That is what this channel does. We take the fragments of suppressed knowledge and assemble them into pictures you were never supposed to see. When you click the Super Thanks button, you are not just supporting a channel, you are supporting the continuation of this work. You are saying that truth matters more than the comfortable official stories. You are not just a viewer. You are part of the small percentage who chooses to know. Now let me tell you what Einstein really wanted us to understand. In his final years, Einstein wrote extensively about what he called the cosmic religious feeling. He described it as the feeling of the mysterious, the sense that there is something behind reality that human reason can barely touch. He said this feeling was the strongest motivation for scientific research. Einstein did not believe in a personal God, but he believed in something. He believed in an order, a harmony, a pattern that human beings could partially glimpse through physics and mathematics. And his quantum work showed him that this pattern included connection, deep, instantaneous, unbreakable connection between all parts of reality. The universe is not a collection of separate objects bouncing off each other randomly. It is a unified whole, in which what we call particles, what we call space, what we call time, are all aspects of something more fundamental. Einstein saw this. He proved it mathematically. And then he spent 28 years trying to find a way to explain it. That did not violate his principles. He never found that way. The equations kept telling him the same thing. Connection is real. Separation is illusion. The observer and the observed are part of the same system. Modern physics is slowly coming to the same conclusions. Quantum information theory, the holographic principle, the ER equals EPR conjecture. They all point toward a universe that is fundamentally unified, where what happens here affects what happens there, because here and there are not really separate. Einstein knew this in 1927. He just could not accept it. Maybe that was his great tragedy. The physicist who saw further than anyone else in history, who discovered relativity and the nature of light and the equivalence of mass and energy. This same physicist could not accept the final implication of his own work. Or maybe it was his great gift. By refusing to publish, by withdrawing that paper, by spending decades warning about spooky action, Einstein created a mystery. He left breadcrumbs. He forced future generations to piece together what he had found. Perhaps he knew that the world of 1927 was not ready, that the world of 1955 was not ready, that the truth needed time to emerge gradually, through experiments and discoveries and aha moments spread across decades. Perhaps those final 12 pages by his deathbed were not a desperate final attempt to complete his work. Perhaps they were the final chapter of a message he had been leaving all along, a message that said, "The universe is connected. That separation is illusion. That we are all part of something vast and mysterious and beautiful." Einstein took a secret to his grave, but secrets have a way of coming out eventually. And now, you know, the question is, what you will do with this knowledge. Will you dismiss it as exaggeration, as conspiracy thinking, as misinterpretation of the historical record? Or will you look deeper? Will you read the original papers? Will you study the letters? Will you follow the breadcrumbs Einstein left? The physics establishment spent decades dismissing Einstein as a brilliant mind who lost his way. They said he could not accept quantum mechanics. They said his unified field theory was a dead end. They said Einstein was wrong. But the Nobel Prize of 2022 proved that spooky action at a distance is absolutely real. The 2019 discovery showed that Einstein's manuscripts are still being found. The ER equals EPR conjecture suggests that Einstein was decades ahead. On unified field theory as well. Maybe Einstein wasn't wrong at all. Maybe he was simply too early. Maybe the secret he carried to his grave wasn't a mistake, but a vital message. And maybe, just maybe, we're finally ready to receive it. This video exists because you chose to watch it. Because you clicked on a title promising Einstein's secrets and stayed for over 10 minutes. While I revealed what happened back in 1927, most people wouldn't do that. Most people just accept what they're told. Most people don't question the official version of history. But you are different. Comment below and tell me what you think. Do you believe Einstein discovered something too dangerous to reveal? Do you think the 1927 paper was withdrawn for the reasons they claim? Do you think the final 12 pages by his deathbed contained the very last pieces of a puzzle he spent his life hiding? I read every comment in the first 2 hours. After a video goes live, your thoughts, your theories, your questions, they shape what videos I create next. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing the rest of this story, because the quantum secret Einstein took to his grave is just one chapter. There are more secrets, more hidden papers, more suppressed discoveries. The truth is still coming out, and you deserve to know all of it. Albert Einstein died on April 18, 1955, at Princeton University Hospital. By his bed were those final 12 pages of equations, and within those equations lay the answer to a question he'd been asking since 1927. What is the true nature of reality. He found out, he wrote it down, and then he closed his eyes for the last time. Now, it's our turn to find out. The quantum secret Einstein took to his grave wasn't just a formula or an equation. It was a profound truth about the very nature of existence itself, a truth that science is only now beginning to confirm. We are all connected. Everything that has ever interacted remains entangled forever. The separation we experience is local, temporary, and ultimately illusory. Einstein knew this. He proved it, and he could not accept it. But you can.